I'm gonna have to work this fast. I've already got a fail. I remember building this for the last one I did. It's basically pipe. The problem is it doesn't go all the way over it. But I've already got everything started, so I don't know if the bearing's warm enough yet. Oh, well, it's like the timer already ran out. This is actually just fresh out of the freezer. You can tell it is froze. I've already got the spacers on there, or shims, or whatever you want to call them. So now I'm trying to reheat this. I had to help my wife bring in groceries, wipe everything down, so this virus doesn't kill us all. So let me reheat this again. I got this, I use a toaster oven because they're cheap, they're only like 20 bucks or something like that, $25, and they do a pretty good job of heating this stuff up. I accidentally put one on broil here a year or two back, and it actually discolored the bearing, and that's probably not a good idea. I got it set about 275, leave it in there about 10-15 minutes, I'm guessing. I don't know when this thing shut off. I don't remember what I had it set at, but it shut off when I got out here, so I'm not doing so good. But I'm going to call it. Don't forget, don't put her on there wrong. And of course, I'm going to use the old bearing brace. Dang, went right on. Yeah. Yep, she's bottomed out. So, where you at? There you are. And you can see it's bottomed out on them shins. I'll get my fingers out of the way. So, there's no more, can't go down any further. So, that's how I do it. It stops you from having to have a press. I'm not saying it's not a good idea to have a press, but tell how hot that was compared to you can actually see it starting to thaw out the pinion. I'm going to let that sit and do its thing. But I'm going to do the same thing with the carrier. Now I'll bring you back when we do that. That did not work. It just would not go through that. And I was judging off the crush sleeve when I did that. And I ended up having to take this and actually, to fit that bearing, I actually ground the top of that down thinking that was going to work. The problem is the inside diameter is what got me. I was going off that crush sleeve is what I was going off of. And I kept forgetting that the crush sleeve stops right here, and so when you went to go over top, I just didn't think it all the way through. I should have checked it before I put it in the freezer, but that's what happened her last time, and I couldn't remember what was going on, so I brought it over here to experiment with and figured it out pretty quick that yes, that didn't work. So okay, I'm going to put the other two bearings for the carrier in, make a little bit more space. They're not harder to put on, they're actually a little easier because doesn't have a shaft to deal with. You can actually set it down and do it. The problem is the thing is very, very top heavy, especially doing the one bearing. So you got to be, I wouldn't say more careful, but you don't want to tear anything up. It's probably a better idea to get a couple of blocks of wood to even support the one side once you get the bearing on and you flip it over to the other side. And the reason you want to do that so that bearing isn't down at a funny angle and that cage is getting beat up. Actually set the carrier up. So I will probably do that. That probably means I ought to put the, well, I'll bring it out and show you what I'm going to do here in just a minute. Well, right or wrong, let's get her done. Well, this is what I wrapped it in so that it wouldn't contaminate anything else in the deep freeze. Believe me, I wouldn't be anybody's hero if I did that. Alright, I decided to put this one on first if it'll stay up there good enough, because that way when I turn it over I got some 2x4s that'll sit underneath there and keep this bearing then off of the table being beat on it. Let me get one bearing out. Don't forget, don't put it on the wrong way. And then I have beating device, I hope. Like I said, a press would be a much better deal. But remember, do not beat on the cage. about halfway. About 3/4 of the way. Almost. Sounds like it's bottomed out. I did not hit the cage. And it's bottomed out. Like I said, I'm not sure I recommend this, guys. This is just what I have. This is what seems to be working. It worked in the past anyway. Maybe I should say that. So now with the boards on there, you don't know if you'll be able to hear this or not, but I could spin that around. So just make sure there's no debris. All right. Almost. Sounds like she's bobbed out. And yes, it's bottomed out. So, have welding gloves, something that could take heat, some type of a good glove, because the bearing is going to be hot. Have something already pre-made. It happened to work out that this thing was perfect for the outside. I checked it on the old bearing while these were in the heater, so I forgot to check that. So, and these didn't stay hot long. They're already touch it. But did not hit the cage, and you better not either, because once you bend that cage up, boy, it's kind of a booger. So, anyway, I'm going to let everything thaw out. I've still got to put the races in the pumpkins. It's really, really windy out there today. I really don't think I should be out there messing with this as much. I mean, it's like 30, 40 mile an hour wind. But I really only have today to do this, so I probably better get after it. So anyway, putting the races in, what I did in the last time, this is probably not, I wouldn't, I know a lot of times I'll tell you I wouldn't recommend this, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. And what I did last time was I did not have a tool to reach into that inside race to put it back in. Getting them out is pretty easy, but getting them back in and lining them up and getting a hold of them and not booger them up, I ended up going to AutoZone. And mind you, I don't have to pay for rental tools up front because I'm in there all the time. But I actually use their seal driver, and that's what I use. So, you know, if you're gentle and don't beat the crap out of it, they probably won't say anything. But you check the box before you leave, because chances are it's already boogered up because somebody did the same thing I did. And I didn't really booger it up anymore, and it already was. But getting them started straight makes a big difference. And so I will likely go to AutoZone today and get their seal driver and at least get those two races put in. The one on the outside isn't quite so bad, or up in the front facing the transmission. That outer one isn't quite as bad, but the one on the inside, I mean, you've got to hole this deep before you can even get to it to start trying to install it. So but anyway, next video should have those already installed, and I'll probably start by putting the pinion in. I likely will not put the new crush sleeve in, I will probably use the old one and just kind of tighten everything up. I have a friend of mine that actually has one of those, you actually check what the preload is on the pinion. It's not supposed to have the carrier in it, nothing's supposed to be hooked to it. It's just, you put a wrench, it's basically like well, I'll show you the tool if I can get it from him. He's working as many hours as I am. It's really hard to get a hold of him because he works complete opposite shifts than I do. And but anyway, he has one of those, and I may borrow it from him. And anyway, see if we can kind of set this up. And because you have to have a certain amount of preload, and I've done them before. Like I said, I've just changing a pinion seal where you have to take that nut off, and you end up taking the yoke off, and you pull that seal and you put a new seal on there, then you put the yoke back on and tighten it up. You really can't get that again because you're supposed to do it without the carrier and stuff in it. Well, just replace the seal. Most people won't do that. So what you end up having to do is, it's cold to the touch now, because this is going to be a lot colder than the bearing was. Yeah, it's colder than the bearing was hot, if that makes sense. What you end up doing, though, it's a good idea anyway to have the rear axle off the ground, both tires, and of course the drive shaft won't be on it. And when you take the drive shaft out, it's a good idea to have that tool, borrow that tool, whatever, if you're going to have to do it more than once, and actually check that preload with everything together the way it is before you take it apart. Just take the drive shaft out, then put the nut on there or your socket, spin that around and see what the preload is. Now you don't want it what initial movement is. It's while it's in rotation, it's supposed to be X amount. And you got to look that up because every vehicle's different, and it's going to be different when you've got the ring and the axles and everything like that hooked to it. Then when you take all that apart, put your new seal and put it back together, then try to get it back to that number, whatever that was originally. Because once you crush that crush sleeve, it's kind of done. You're not really supposed to do it again. And so if I put all this together, put the pinion in, tighten everything up, put the seal on, everything like that, and then I crush it, then I'm kind of done. And then if something's off one way or another and I have to pull something back apart or add a different shim or whatever it is, then I have to, everything is ruined again. You basically have to buy, because you're going to have to replace that one bearing anyway, if that shim's not right to begin with. But that's a good starting point where it was from the factory. And I looked at these, and this is, whether it's right or wrong, this is made by the original bearing. It's made by, it's Koyo. Koyo, I don't know. Made in the USA. The new bearings, same company. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but here's the new race. That's the brand new one. Kick the camera, and it is the same. Hopefully you saw the last one. I don't even know if you were in the same. Let me get you up there, and let me put my hand there in front to where you can actually. You can see they're made by the same company. So, like I said, good or bad, right or wrong, it's at least it's the same. And that's actually what I like to look for, because not all bearings are made equal. Kind of like seals and gaskets. Not all that stuff is made on tires and anything else. Not all that stuff is made equal. The specs on these are very specific, and if they're off, then that could throw everything else off that you're doing. So I try to get like for like. I know this went 200,000 miles. I don't know if the seal went bad and then caused some problems, or whether these are just notorious for eating everything up and then eats the seal because of all how loose the pinion is. I really don't know, but doesn't really make any difference at this point. I'm going to put like for like in. I have in my mind, have a lot better chance of having it set up the way it was, without having to make any modifications or add different shims or take it in and out 50 times. But sometimes you got to do that. So just keep that in mind. All right, next video, we're going to be doing some installing.